Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us today at Tableau Conference. You're in Avaap's virtual booth and a fantastic session that we have lined up for today. My name is Nehul Vias. I'm a Director of Analytics Consulting and the leader of our Tableau Solution Group here at Avaap. We're so appreciative of the opportunity to present to you all today, and certainly appreciative of your attendance and engagement throughout this session as we discuss the work Avaap collaborated on with the University of Georgia in the design, build, and deployment of a public-facing estimated cost calculator. Before we dig into our topic, I'd like to provide just a quick overview of Avaap and share a little bit about ourselves. Avaap is a cross-platform, industry-specialized global IT advisory and management consulting firm. Our span of consulting and technology resources enable us to build for the future faster and better than before, combining a massive breadth of experienced consultants across several consulting practice areas with the ability to support clients across multiple sectors and industries. Our analytics practice is within Avaap's Advisory Services business unit, which combined with other market-leading advisory practice groups enables Avaap's consulting resources to support our clients through various offerings ranging from business analysis and process design, enterprise solution strategy, organizational change management, program and project management, and testing and deployment activities. These consulting offerings provide our clients with the assurance that Avaap brings market-leading technical and functional consulting resources to every engagement to support our clients' goals. Our analytics offerings span the entire data value chain from organizational data strategy, where we help clients develop a comprehensive roadmap to their analytics and technology investments, rapid ROI, where the focus is on driving adoption and utilization of an analytics capability across the organization's footprint, and continuous value to focus on sustained and scalable growth. These three pillars are complemented through our ability to execute engagements from robust and transformative solution delivery, supporting enterprise data initiatives, rapid Tableau dashboarding quick starts, Tableau technical health checks, with a focus on the infrastructure, setup, and configuration of the Tableau environment. And we even serve as a managed services provider to some of our clients to fully host their Tableau capability, accompanied with full-service operational SLAs and hands-on maintenance and administration. Avaap is a TC sponsor again this year, and we are very much looking forward to engaging with you all through our virtual booth. So come check us out and let us learn about your data journey. With that said, it's my great pleasure to welcome our presenters for today's session. All of our speakers here are within Avaap's analytics practice. I'd like to welcome Stacy George, Senior Analyst in our analytics practice. Stacy, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. And Jason Wood, Director of our analytics practice and our capability lead at Avaap. Jason, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm so appreciative of you all taking the time here today. Can't wait to get into the details here about this estimated cost calculator and the work that you all have done with the University of Georgia. Jason, with that said, the floor is yours.
All right, thanks, Nehul. All right, so as Nehul previously mentioned, this presentation is about a Tableau use case that we recently implemented with the University of Georgia to build out a public-facing interactive student cost calculator. So I'll start by giving a quick overview of the use case, how it came about, our approach, and then I'll hand it off to my colleague here, Stacy, to talk about and demo the actual solution itself. So Avaap's partnership with the University of Georgia started a year or so, a little over a year ago, with Avaap's Quick Start and Enablement Service offering for skilling up the university's use of Tableau and Alteryx to build out their analytics acumen and capabilities, while also helping them implement initial high-value use cases to really help them generate momentum with this initiative. So both of these tools, both Alteryx and Tableau, were new to their finance division, and their leadership had this vision to improve processes with more modern data and analytics methods and tools, which is why they chose Avaap to help them get started down this journey. So that being said, over time, relationships were built, and it led to a request from UGA's Bursar's office around April of 2020 this year to meet their promise to the student body for creating that interactive public-facing tuition calculator, and they wanted it by summer 2020, really the end of June this year is when they wanted it delivered by for the students. And then as that conversation continued, that tuition calculator then expanded into an all costs of attending the university, not just tuition, to really provide a more complete and accurate picture what college will actually cost based on those students' unique preferences or their plans going into college. And that's really what led us to the build out of this estimated cost calculator for UGA. So from a value perspective, really the value of the solution is pretty self-explanatory, but at its highest level, it's a public-facing calculator leveraging financial information to really, again, create that holistic view of costs facing students. And as some of you may know or have experience with, it's not always easy to get a single price tag of going to college that really takes into account of a variety of factors, not just tuition. So with a solution like this, it really provides that easy, interactive way in a single view for people to quickly get this information and empower students to make more informed decisions for their college. Also, data transparency, another key value here. Data transparency has become a major focus with public institutions like higher ed and government to really make information more available to customers or their citizens. And this use case was obviously no different for this solution. Another key value, promoting informed decision-making, especially for the students. And with this informed decision-making, even helping meet some of those concerns in society about that rising student debt. So providing more information around that to help those decisions. Meeting requests of the student body, really satisfying the specific request of UGA customers who are primarily their students and parents. And then answering limitless combinations for planning and budgeting. So for this solution, no matter what type of college experience the student envisions for themselves, the good thing is that they can drill down to a precise cost based on their unique experience or their unique preferences for college. And then lastly, offering that single source of truth for all student costs. So the nice thing about it's a one-stop shop location for all of their cost information rather than kind of having to manually piece it all together from different websites, data sources, or whatever to get that information, which can often be inefficient and time-consuming. So why Tableau? So I think the decision was pretty easy for UGA, but these are some of the key factors that make Tableau a good solution for this use case. First thing on the top here is condensed timeline. So we really only had a couple of months. Again, we heard about the idea in April. They wanted it delivered by end of June. So we only had a couple of months to implement a complex solution. So we really needed a tool that was quick and agile to meet those needs. Also visual, interactive, easy to use for the public. So again, we needed a tool that could present information in a visual, interactive, and easy to use way for the public to consume. We also needed a tool that could quickly and easily integrate with UGA's public-facing website for their bursar's office, which is where this tuition calculator landed. And then another key thing was using a tool and building a solution that was efficient and flexible. And I say this because we didn't really have a lot of time to gather and finalize requirements up front. We really had to get started with what we knew right away, knowing requirements would change, that new ones would come up and arise as we built out the solution and the users started getting their hands on the solution and seeing what it could actually look like. We knew requirements would change and new requirements would come in as we did that. Also, needing a tool that can effectively manage complex data sources from different systems, just different disparate systems, different departments, and then bringing that all together into an efficient model to meet all the Tableau calculations and Tableau presentation needs. We needed a tool that can do that. So obviously, a lot of these things Tableau can address very well with some of its capabilities. And to kind of top it off, Tableau is used pretty heavily now across UGA. So we wanted to make sure we leveraged existing and familiar technology for the solution, and UGA had familiarity. They had existing skill sets to maintain and improve the solution going forward. It's also cost effective, being able to avoid purchasing new technology or even new skill sets for that matter. And then also having a solution that makes it easy to share with others, specifically for processes like UAT, user acceptance testing, and just sharing the results with others and getting feedback, which made Tableau a great option for this solution. And it leads me to the challenge, and some of these overlap with what we just talked about from why Tableau was a good fit. We talked about condensed timelines, so only a couple of months to build a complex solution to get that out the door for the students to start using. Also, the solution had a lot of complex business logic and calculations. So we, as implementers, had to really quickly learn and implement complex calculations that really were not cut and dry logic. There was a lot of nuance and uniqueness depending on the combinations of the filters that the user selects to get their cost information. So depending on the selection, there was a lot of if then else logic implemented to really correctly calculate all the different combinations. So for example, each campus has different costs and fees associated to it. Then you factor in on campus versus online, in-state versus out-of-state, undergrad versus graduate, plus many more factors. You can see the logic can start getting pretty complex there. So that was a big challenge that we had to overcome. I mentioned this before, but just data sources, disparate data sources coming from different systems, different departments, and different structures, some cleaner than others. Source data was changing throughout the development process. So as there are times where new fields got added to the solution to help support some of the calculations, and we just had to adapt to that. Working with different stakeholders, different university departments, different personalities, different priorities to overcome in that short timeline. And then again, quickly reacting and adjusting to requirements as they were being solidified throughout development was a key challenge that we had to overcome and make sure we were flexible there. Another key challenge, UAT was very thorough. Obviously, this is a public-facing solution, so obviously UAT should be part of the forefront and a big focus of that. So there was a lot of thorough UAT, working with key stakeholders, making sure the results from all the different combinations were accurate, no stone was left unturned. So that was a big challenge that we had to work through with tight timelines. And lastly, just making sure the solution can be transitioned. This is a big focus for us on any solution that we implement with clients. We want to make sure that the solution is built in a way for efficient, ongoing support and enhancements for UGA to maintain, which can often be challenging, especially when you're moving at such a fast pace, kind of taking a step back and making sure that you're implementing it as optimally as possible so that you can easily transition it over to the client fully. That's a big focus. I think we did a really good job of that. And it's also a continued focus to make sure to continue to optimize and improve the solution going forward. The last thing I'll talk about is just our approach to implementing the solution. First thing, and I think one of the most important things, is we got started quickly with an idea and a vision. We didn't wait. We didn't sit around and have more discussions. We wanted to get started and get something out and into the end users, the key stakeholders' hands, not the students, but the key stakeholders' hands of the solutions quickly for them to react to and provide feedback to. We didn't wait for every detailed requirement to be fully vetted. As users, honestly, weren't even completely sure what they wanted with the end product quite yet. They had an idea, but they weren't sure about all the details that they wanted to see in it. So that's kind of why we went with that agile, iterative development approach, where we had an initial prototype and then iterative development and feedback cycles to really nail down those requirements while still progressing through development and making progress there. And this is actually a really common, this rapid agile approach is really common and is often best practice now when it comes to these more focused modern analytics use cases like this one. From a technology perspective, we leveraged both Tableau and Alteryx to really build out an optimal solution end-to-end for them. And both Alteryx and Tableau are now pretty heavily used throughout the UGA finance department. Alteryx really primarily for automating the more complex data workflows and processes. They also use it for a lot for automating manual financial Excel processes, which has been a huge value to them as well too. And then obviously Tableau for all of the presentation of their data, all of the final data prep calculations and presentation of the data. So for this specific solution, we leverage Alteryx again for the complex data cleansing, data wrangling, consolidation, transformation, to bring it all together to get it into a format that could easily be consumed by Tableau to do those final calculations, present the final information. Which leads me to Tableau, which again was for the final data preparation. And really the Tableau side of this solution was a little bit unique compared to your common Tableau use cases, as we used it to really build a more interactive tool or application and not just a pretty visualization, which is obviously what Tableau's bread and butter is. But it really provides more of a tool that makes it interactive and easy to use for a large audience. Also, making sure the solution was flexible as we were building it. We talked about this before requirements were changing throughout the process. So we wanted to make sure we could build a solution that could adapt. We didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves when we were doing development and developing certain components or modeling the data that couldn't handle bringing in new components or new features. So that was a big focus of ours. We worked closely with UGA throughout the process to really confirm those final requirements, that final scope for go live, initial go live, and worked on gaining approval to get it published to the website, while also considering backlogs of enhancements to make sure we can keep track of for future iterations and future releases. And then lastly, optimizing the solution as much as we possibly can for future refreshes, and then transitioning it fully to UGA to really enable them to maintain it and improve it going forward, and also to teach them and help them to help promote self-service for future use cases so that they can build out these solutions on their own without as much support, so that they continue to grow down their analytics maturity path. So that all being said, I know that's a lot there, but I'll hand it off to my colleague now, Stacy, who will now walk you through some of the more exciting stuff, obviously, by providing a detailed overview of the actual solution and also providing a demo of the solution. So Stacy, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, Jason, for all that good information. Now that we've covered kind of that background, the general approach for the solution, as Jason mentioned, I'll get to take us through some of the more granular information centered around the data journey and the solution design. In the upcoming slides, we'll hit on each of the tools that touch the data, what occurred to the information to prepare for visualization, and as mentioned, a quick demo of the tool itself. So without further ado, let's dive in. Awesome. So the first building block that deserves mentioning is how the data came in at the source. All the information is derived from Excel spreadsheets that were sent over email. On this slide, up in the top, is a sample picture of the data itself. As you can see, there are multiple tabs of information because departments initially sent over various data cuts so that there were options on how to slice the data as the tool continued to be built out. Jason touched on the agile approach for the solution. The quick iterative build proved effective and allowed us to deliver solutions on tight deadlines. I will say that the back and forth emails with various editions of the data at times did prove confusing, but watching various departments that are typically siloed come together and learn from the various priorities for collecting information was really cool. For example, housing was always had to be vigilant on the levels of the students. So if they were graduate or undergraduate, if they had a family, if they were just freshmen, etc. Whereas parking was pretty simple and didn't have as rigid of requirements. It was mostly based just on the location preferences of students. Because of these different priorities, some of the data sources required additional columns to be added, such as level and campus, to create common fields that unify the data in meaningful ways. As the university takes ownership of the solution, they will be optimizing the data source process and centralizing the entire kind of journey to eliminate sending the information over email. Awesome. Okay, so now that we fully understand the data sources, we want to dive into the first part of the functioning solution. The calculator build-out leverages Alteryx to further wrangle data from the siloed sources to rigidly transform and blend based off of specific logic patterns. As you can see, the Alteryx workflow is kind of a screenshot of all that, and it gets a little crazy because of all that fun logic. Alteryx was, as Jason mentioned, highly used by UGA in the past, specifically to automate complex data workflows. So it was really cool. The tool did prove itself a logical partner to the visualization powers of Tableau. In the beginning phases, we hoped to create every single imaginable combination in the data source in case the university's rules changed over time. So the append tool in Alteryx was a central item. However, UGA has a lot of good things going, and if every single combination was created, the row limit exceeded the Tableau public publishing limit. So that was pretty crazy to see. Therefore, with deeper dives into data requirements, Alteryx filter tools allowed us to really narrow in on the current feasible combination options for students, creating a more accurate and better performing data source. Other important transformations that occurred in Alteryx include that we had to ensure that campus and level column were present in all data sources so that the information had columns that could unify meaningfully. We standardized and cleansed the data for clean filter options in Tableau. For example, we added please select and not applicable options that would be present in the data source, but were not initially be present in the data source, but were required for the final functionality of the tool. And then we also blended the data sources together to create a clean single source that would drive the grand total number in Tableau. So overall, Alteryx proved helpful for massaging the complex data model to meaningfully fit into Tableau. And utilizing Alteryx further provided confidence that the university would know how to maintain the solution moving forward. Awesome. Okay, so once all the data was, again, put together within that Alteryx workflow, we got to feed the information into Tableau for a final round of calculations that would present the viz and allow us to embed the solution into the university's website. UGA is actively using Tableau and skilling up employees. Therefore, its known visualization powers made the software an easy choice for the solution, specifically as we thought long-term for their employees that would support the product. While the university was aware of Tableau previously, they were impressed by this product how this product became more of a tool than just a traditional visualization. Their developers were excited to see, like Jason had mentioned, those classic calculated fields drive the if-else statements, which was the logic that students will use to select their paths. And Tableau's feature to show only relevant options provided an extra layer of confidence that students wouldn't be pursuing unrealistic combinations. We tapped into other seemingly simple Tableau features, such as link actions, to make the solution robust with supporting information as students inquired about the logistics of specific dining plans or location of parking lots. The classic tooltip appears heavily in the totaling section to both remind users of their previous selections and go a step further as offering instructional reminders if a step was skipped. As development rounded to a close, a desktop and mobile version were pushed out to help support the various ways predicted that students would commonly interact with the information. Tableau really proved useful as a quick start to this product. The UGA stakeholders were confident entering conversations as they'd been exposed to the power of Tableau in the past. The multi-worksheet bedrock of Tableau empowered us to quickly build out subtotals and test functionality of the data source, even while the requirements for a different department were still being debated. And while validations needed to occur across a bunch of different people, each department was familiar with using Tableau server, and so it was pretty easy to accommodate having multiple users log in and do that acceptance testing. All right, so we've kind of been teasing you a while about this product, so it's time to kind of switch screens and see the tool in action. So bear with me as I escape that presentation mode. So for all of our listeners, feel free, you can always, in your free time or right now, whatever you prefer, you can always go straight to the university's website. It's going to be under their bursars kind of pages with all the different options. Kind of to orient yourself here for the first time, the calculator, of course, kind of falls into those various departments that are blended. We kind of have them boxed in different ways. We're going to walk you through as if I myself was a university student trying to make some informed decisions about next steps as I pursue some education. So as you can see, you start at the top and you answer prompt by prompt. The first area, of course, is kind of going to be that bedrock of your tuition, the major you're at, the level. So right up top, you can decide if you want that E-rate, that online rate. Of course, we mentioned kind of that link feature that will launch you into other components of the website. So if you weren't quite sure what E-rate meant or some of the finer level details around it, you can always click on a details page and it'll launch you out into the world. Here the default is no. That's just typically what students encounter, but of course you can always change it to yes if that applies to you. So I'm going to say that it's a no on the E-rate. I am in fact an in-state resident as opposed to an out-of-state. The level I'm choosing, I'll go ahead and be an undergrad student. It's if it accepts me being an undergrad student. There we go. Program of study. Because they're undergraduate sections, just the way things are parsed out for the university, they have the standard option. So if you're just a classic high school grad looking to get a traditional major like English or engineering, you can just click that standard option. Here we have the default number of hours at 12. That's just kind of the university standard of a full-time student. I'm going to keep it at 12 for now. Campus, for UGA, they have a lot of different sub-campuses and options that you can attend. Because I'm a bright-eyed freshman, I want to go to the main heart of it all in Athens, Georgia. So I'll click that guy. Scroll down the page, and it's going to walk you through those housing and dining options. So I'm a freshman. My cousin went to UGA, and he recommended Church Hall. So I'll click on that. And then here it's going to be nice. It populates the different options available for each residence. So in Church Hall, the only option is going to be the double with community bath. So that's the one I'm going to pick. And then moving down, dining rate. I'm going to say that I do live on campus because I am interested in that Church Hall. And then dining plan, I'm going to say I want all access 7-day. I'm a freshman looking to gain those first 15 pounds. And then since I'm on campus, I don't really want a parking pass at this time. I'll just walk to class, so I'll hit not applicable. So here kind of becomes the information all totaling up. So as you can see, the grand total here is going to be $11,075. As we mentioned, the tooltips are kind of this nice anchor of a reminder of what to do next or what you've already selected. So here it's reminding users that if you want to test a different scenario, you can just go up to the top and hit refresh. So with that grand total kind of front and center, you can also move down the screen and see what each of those components contributes to that larger number. So tuition-wise, as you hover over it, as a reminder, we're just in-state undergrad doing a standard program for 12 hours, and the subtotal is over $4,000. Fees, that feels like a lot of money, you know, over $1,000 for fees, but if you hover over it, it'll actually do a specific breakdown, saying again that if you're on that Athens campus, it comes with a lot of things in that package. You got to think about the rec fee, the faculty fee. There's things called Connect UGA fee. That's just different offerings they have at the university itself, and so on and so forth. So that's pretty neat, and it is informative as you change campuses. Those fees update accordingly. Of course, housing, as you hover over it, it reminds you which one you have. It also kind of does this disclaimer that the cost reflects rent plus a $20 programming fee. So that is something they didn't want to trick students. They wanted to be as transparent as possible. So every dollar is kind of accounted for and explained. And then, of course, moving down, we have the dining plan. It's going to just be that $2,018 for that. And then parking, you can see, and you're confident that it's zero because we did the not applicable. And again, it says no permit type is chosen. So if someone's like, oh, I thought it would be more money, they remembered that they didn't select an option. So that's kind of the primary function. What UGA really had a heart for and wanted students, especially in this crazy day and age where things are constantly changing, it's pretty nice. So the same freshman student could kind of refresh up here. It's going to reset the preferences, and they could quickly walk through the same prompts, but change accordingly to see how much it's going to impact their financial portfolio. So again, just that undergraduate student, standard program. I'm going to keep us at 12 hours just so we can see some of the differences at the bottom, but say a student also works part-time or has, I don't know, multiple sporting events or things going on in their lives, and seasons kind of change with different life patterns. So you could kick back down to, say, 5 hours if that's what's manageable, or of course you can max it out at that 18, which is kind of where universities recommend students stop taking on more work. Here it's cool. I'm going to go ahead and pick Athens again just so that we can work through some of the dining plans and the dorm option differences. But the logic here, someone could say, man, I really like Athens, that would be cool, but perhaps I live really close to Buckhead. So they could go through all the same options, but pick Buckhead as if for their freshman year they might save on costs, live at home, and go to that campus. But again, for this one, I'll keep it at Athens so we can have that price comparison. But for this one, for residency, say I'm not interested in that classic dorm room experience. I actually want to just live off campus. My best friend from high school is 2 grades above me. They have an off-campus house. I just want to kick it with them. So I can say, not applicable for me, thank you. Just going to go through that. But for dining plan, I am still on campus enough if I get hungry between classes or just want to not make dinner for the night. I can click, of course, that off-campus meal plan. And then it populates the different options for off-campus students. Here, I'll kind of stick more to a certain block plan, have that option populated. And then because I'm living off campus, I do, in fact, want to pick the red zone's parking permit type. So as you can see, it did actually drop our total. So this is pretty like a nice scenario of the same student just walking through different options they have at hand. Tuition, of course, is going to be staying the same because I didn't change my major. I'm still interested in that standard package. However, and the fees do stay the same on this one because I'm at Athens. Housing, of course, goes down to 0, so you're going to have to think of whatever your rent may be for off-campus. UGA can't predict that for you. Dining plan spiced it up a little bit, a different value here just based off of the option selected. And then, of course, this time around, parking is no longer at 0. So all in all, just a pretty all-encompassing tool that really is focused on giving students the power to pick and choose as they please to accommodate whatever lifestyle they're really shooting for. With that, I'm going to jump back into our PowerPoint presentation. Give it a second to load. And to kind of come to a close, we did want to hit on just, again, some of those so what statements, what this means for the universities. So overall, now UGA is well on their way in their pursuit of modern analytics through this process that did advocate for improving operational efficiencies, making data more available, and providing better insights both internally and externally to their customers. In fact, attendees are now able to confidently navigate the options available for their college experience and take ownership of their financial future. Now each student can be catered to based on the multitude of unique combinations required to accommodate such a diverse student body at the university. UGA is taking on full ownership of the tool as they look toward automation and advancements to improve the end user experience. And during these times of uncertainty, you know, COVID hit hard, and just in life in general, I feel like when you're in your 20s, things change rapidly. So the calculator has continued to just build trust between the university and its students as they move forward. So with that, that kind of wraps up the big part of the presentation, and we'll kind of move to this question slide.
Yeah, absolutely, Stacey. That was fantastic. And I want to encourage anyone and everyone, use the chat box if you got questions. Certainly put them in there. That'd be great. I've got a couple right off the top of my head.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is fantastic. So thank you first and foremost, Stacey and Jason, for walking through this. You know, the impact of a tool like this for a student, for a family, you know, it's imperative to have visibility into the cost of higher education, and it's a phenomenal capability. So great work here. I wanted to make sure, because I think I heard you say that UGA did have experience with Tableau.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with your experience working with a higher ed institution that has that experience level versus those that don't, we're still recommending Tableau as kind of a go-forward public-facing solution for a utility like this?
Yeah, great question. We would still definitely recommend Tableau to other universities, even if they haven't heard of the product or experienced any past engagement with it, simply because we find that Tableau is just, it's a tool that wows. It's something that it really grabs users from start to finish. And we really like it's not overly convoluted. I find that like a lot of times universities are all about some app development. They really want some specific functionality that a lot of people just immediately turn to some of this complex coding. A lot of things that can't be supported in-house, whereas Tableau can both be used across different departments to build their own simple kind of visualizations. And then it can also really start to handle some of these more complex use cases where it's all about the if-then logic that you apply in that, but the shell is really can be built very nicely within Tableau and applied across different universities and such.
Yeah, no, and that's actually a good segue to my next question with the rigid filter logic. Help me understand the applicability of that, where, when we take a utility like this, because this is applicable for many higher education institutions, right? When we talk about the rigid filter logic, what is kind of the lift and shift of that for a net new university that would want to implement it with their own rules? Is that something that's easily attainable?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so for sure. I think the biggest kind of thing across this build out was meeting with the departments and making sure that they could tell us the logic. Other than that, between the combination of Alteryx and Tableau, the tools themselves are really prepared and capable of handling kind of like, if this happens, then subtract 7, or if that occurs, then add this to another feature. So the softwares themselves are very robust in that nature, and I think it's ready to kind of plug and play at different universities as needed, as long as they're ready to kind of roll up their sleeves and dive into that filter logic that's unique to them. Pretty applicable across different universities.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I got one more for you, and this is more so kind of open-ended, but obviously we're working in these interesting COVID times. It's always a good perspective to understand kind of the collaborative partnership and journey that we take with our clients through it, both from a actual delivery perspective, but then also as you're working through, the business logic, the requirements that a client is kind of formulating within these times. Walk me through that experience and how that kind of came to fruition, your experience working with the University of Georgia.
Yeah, definitely. So if I'm hearing correctly, a lot of just wanting to know more specifically about the requirements gathering and how that went down.
Sure.
It wasn't a unique time in general, as Jason mentioned, very condensed timeline, started in April were the conversations. So it's cool to see UGA at large always really having a heart for their students and advocating for that transparency. And then of course, March hit, COVID hit, a lot of things changing constantly. But UGA really stayed focused on wanting to keep conversations and communication channels open. They felt that specifically in this time, building out a tool like this was of high importance. We found that, of course, in like most meetings, getting on a quick phone call, having some guiding questions to really drill down to, and Avaap in general really believes in the prototype first methodology. So anytime we were in kind of a requirements gathering meeting, having something to show them so that they could really kind of sink their teeth into and really provide meaningful feedback to drive future iterations. I think that was the key to really hitting the ground running and making sure we were all happy and confident moving forward on such a quick turnaround in such confusing times. Yeah,
I'm interested in one more thing on the note with COVID. I noticed in one of the filter drop downs it had E-rate.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an electronic online class rate?
Yeah, really good question. It is, and University of Georgia, they've been developing those programs for several years now, but it was something that they wanted front and center, specifically as they knew students were going to be having just more concerns about safety and different things. They wanted to give students the confidence knowing that their university experience wouldn't necessarily be impacted. It might be shifted for the time being, but there'll still be a bulldog, whether it be on the Athens campus, the Tiffin campus, or of course online.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective and visibility, right? Because in higher ed, especially in these times with COVID, we're seeing an impact on retention, we're seeing a financial impact, and to provide that cost visibility to a prospective student and understanding that, hey, you may not necessarily need to be on campus to have quality, affordable education. I think that's huge. The other part of this too, which I'm just curious to, fly on the wall, the stakeholders, your clients at UGA, as they were providing you requirements, going through design, were they ideating on their own actual operational policies when it comes to cost, right? Especially in these pandemic times, when you're looking at the cost of education, they're working through it. Were there any eye-opening moments that you came across where they understood, hey, as we dug into the details, there's an aha moment of, we didn't realize that the 7-day, dining plan at this particular campus location was actually this much. Was there any of that? that came to fruition and light as you were working through the project?
Definitely. I think I think that was a part of like just the excitement of this project, was seeing a lot of those departments come together and see the different costs add up and have more of an awareness across their community of like what each department was advocating for, how it impacted students. I would say that they're all pretty much on top of things, so there wasn't necessarily like a specific thing or a number that blew them all away, but it was really cool to see them just collaborate. And specifically walking through some of the demos, there were moments where the departments, they weren't necessarily caught up with the number, but it was sweet to see some aha moments on what would be the most powerful metrics for students to walk through.
Mm-hmm.
So initially it was a lot of like, even for housing, they were super focused on like the bathroom type or the like number of beds you could fit per room, and just like ongoing discussions with students and higher ups with how they really want it to be for the student and empower those decisions. They would come to different conclusions of like, you know what, all the students care about is like the dorm name. Like they all know it, they're not going to be new to it. So like let's have them pick that dorm name first and then show some different options instead of getting into the nitty gritty about specific bathroom types and then getting confused why they're not seeing a dorm name they really recognize and resonate with.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's fantastic. We do have a question in the chat here. I'm going to read this verbatim, so bear with me. What was it like to create a tool in Tableau that looks like something you would need coding for versus a visualization like UGA had using Tableau before?
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty cool. So that was kind of the first thought. Just kind of entering the world of analytics, it was pretty sweet to see something so quickly come together, as I talked to some of my peers who are heavy into coding development, and these projects normally just get bogged down for months, and like the smallest bit of code could really trip someone up. And even like the case with the housing, you could go down months of development to get some type of functionality just to have the stakeholder be like, I want a different development. So really, I mean, I can't just like praise the ability of Tableau to work so quickly and adaptably in a way that I would agree. I think that it really looks like a tool, which is pretty sweet in the world of Tableau today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's the beauty of Tableau, is you can build a solution like that and we can actually hand it off to the business to maintain. They don't have to be programmers or anything like that. They can literally understand what we built and maintain it and grow it and build their own future use cases.
Yeah.
With it, so.
And you mentioned something, Jason, while you were going through, and that was the sustainability aspect and essentially the change management, right? We're essentially developing high quality solutions for our clients, but we're also teaching them to fish,
Yes.
right? We want this thing to be everlasting, and quite frankly, our time is finite on these engagements. Walk me through the experience that UGA had in complementing Alteryx with Tableau, because I know there was a data journey there. Were they Alteryx users before we came on board, or was that a relatively new experience and the complement between what that capability offers married with the front-end capabilities that Tableau offers?
Yeah, they were actually very heavy Excel users, so lots of manual Excel processes that were taking months and months to complete just for one output report that they needed to give out. So that was really where it all started, and their leadership had that vision to say, okay, we need to improve these processes. So they heard about Alteryx, got a quick overview of it, and then we came in and provided our expertise in that area, and we call it our quick start and enablement, where we go in and we identify what are your initial high value use cases, what are your biggest challenges. Some of them were some of those reports that took a month to build out. So we started working with them to teach them how to use Alteryx while also implementing those initial high value solutions. Some of them reduced processes from months to days, weeks to days, and they were super excited about it. And then we started talking with them about how do you present that information in a more visual way to your leadership. They realized they use Tableau in a bunch of different areas and other departments. So that led to, okay, how do we marry this up with Tableau and build that end-to-end solution? So then future work started involving Alteryx plus Tableau, and really led to these more advanced end-to-end solutions where now they can bring data together from all over the place, operationalize them, get these dashboards humming and getting the information to people in a really good way. So it's an exciting story for them, and they've generated a ton of momentum, and they're humming now, so it's cool.
Yeah, no, I love it. And I'm just going through and listening to the journey here. I can already start ideating on additional addendums to the cost calculator, right? When we talk about, even you mentioned 12 credit hours or adjusting the credit hours, adding on to that in the context of the supplies that come with the coursework, or even ancillary elements of, hey, you talked about a meal plan, what about football tickets, right? What about all the other kind of cost variables that come with the college experience, including that it's just variables to understand this is the total package, this is potentially what I'm walking into to have this level of experience. I think that's awesome. Fantastic job. I want to thank you both. You know, I think the story here was incredible, very informative. Stacy, great job on the demo. Thank you so much. Jason, love the story and teeing this thing up. I want to make sure that everyone knows that we, again, are a silver level sponsor for Tableau Conference. Stop by the virtual booth. Let us know your data journey. We're happy to just get a perspective across the board on, you know, what you all are doing with Tableau, what you want to do with Tableau. Happy to assist, advise, and certainly network. We've got another power-packed agenda for tomorrow. I believe we got 4 sessions on the docket. Again, just, you know, so important to hear the different use cases, leveraging analytics in the world that we live in today. We are so super excited. Again, Jason and Stacy, thank you so much for all the great work here. I'm sure the UGA team is incredibly enthused about the capabilities that they have and the growing footprint of modern analytics that they're going to capitalize on. So thank you again, and thank you everyone that attended our session. Hope you all have a great day.
Thank you.